Hey, what are you doing on there? Get off there. And what happened to my antenna? I ate it. Those antennas are not edible. I ate it, so it's edible. And what's with all the radios around here? Oh yeah, and I was gonna ask you why that's on. Why is that radio on a Spanish station? Ah, it's Peppy. He likes to listen to the music and stuff. Yeah, well, you guys ain't supposed to mess around with that stuff. These are, these are my gadgets. Yeah, well, where's the knives? I thought this was a knife channel. I don't see any knives or anything. Well, I do see a lot of knives. But you're not talking about knives. You know, if you don't start talking about knives, I'm going to start eating your radios, all right? I already started with the antenna on this one. And yeah. Oh, this looks pretty. I mean, get away from that. Now get over there. All right, all right. I'll do a knife video for you. Jeez. Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, I've been into radios a lot lately, and I was going to start to talk about a little bit more about some of the radios that I got in. And some dick came along and decided that he's going to change what's going on around here. So anyway, I wanted to talk about knife modifications, and I don't mean, like extensive modifications. It's just like it could be, for example, I like this knife here, this old timer. That's not my stomach rumbling. That's thunder out there. Many would say, it's lightweight, too light, for chopping and everything. But if you think about it, a lot of the chopping in a Bowie knife is from leverage because of the length. And the chopping was chopping off limbs and not limbs from trees. So it had that capability. A lot of times, yeah, it helps in mass, but you have a trade-off. You have a trade-off in that a heavier blade is harder to maneuver around, and that might come in handy when you're up close and personal with somebody that wants to get up close and personal with you in a bad way. But on this particular knife, the main thing that could be changed is the sheath. And when you do that, you're starting to make your knives more personal. I think, it can be for a couple of reasons. It can be for like practical reasons. Again, here's an inexpensive sheath, but it works a lot better in compactness and everything. Bowie knife, Ontario. Yeah, I like this SP5 one. It has that. Now see, you got more mass and more choppage ability here and everything. Another great knife company that is no more. But the other sheath that came with it, big. It's functional, but I mean it's massive. It takes up a lot of real estate. You don't always have a lot of room for some of that stuff. And then you can carry a little sharpening stone in here, and a little pouch for pep pills or whatever you're gonna put in there. A ferro rod, $20. Shoot, a fella could have a good time in Vegas with all that. All right, so we'll put that up. Now I'm talking about it's for functionality also, because in this instance I still have the other sheath for this that has all the MOLLE attachments and everything, but this is more practical for just carrying it around. And the handle makes a big difference on this one. Sometimes the handle is what you need for ergonomics, how it feels in your hand. If it feels good in your hand, great. But if you can't if you don't modify it, you're going to put up with something that it changes a whole different, it changes into a whole different knife. Another modification, was maybe the mounting system. You just slap on a little piece of leather here, and now you got a cross draw. And that's what I was using this. There's another modification is I took off that coating, that's on here. Yeah, it is more rust prone that way because the coating does a very good job of stopping rust, but it won't stop all of it, and it makes a big drag. It makes a noticeable difference on cutting. Cut up the user's manual here. Now let's invert your power. Ugh. But the feel of it. This one's not super sharp. The feel of it going through there. Well, that's another thing. That's another modification. The edge of the blade. You sooner or later you're going to have to sharpen it, and many times you can take a knife that's not cutting very well or whatever and just mess around with the angle. Now, you don't want to, it's up to you, but you can go crazy with laying it back too far back. Yeah, it's gonna be super sharp and everything else, but one of those on the table and bang, the edge is gone. Maybe a chunk of it's gone. Because all steels have their limitations, and all knives, depends on the heat treat and everything. And it's very possible, that's not abusing your knife. It's very possible to run into something more solid than, let's say, hair shaving sharp or something. So that's another thing. You just have to fiddle around with whatever edge works for you, I had someone ask me in a question on another one of my videos a while back that said, for example, like, which is the better steel, 440A or 8CR13 MOV? Now, a lot of people will look at that and say, well, naturally, 8CR13 is better than 440A because it's tougher and it has more edge retention. Well, what if your main consideration is corrosion resistance? I know for a fact 440A is super corrosion resistant. You can eventually get it to stain, but man, I tried one time by accident because I was trying to force a patina on what I thought was carbon steel. Smoky Mountain Knife Work had mislabeled their knife as being carbon steel, mainly because that's what they ordered, but I guess the factory put what they had. I don't know, there was some mix-up. But anyways, it was advertised as being carbon steel. That's one of the reasons why I bought the knife. And so immediately I started trying to force a patina on it, and I couldn't get it to go with vinegar. So then I tried vinegar and salt water. Wouldn't do it. I tried heating it up. Wouldn't do it. I left it overnight. I left it stuck in apples. I put mustard on it. I didn't throw battery acid on it, but I was about to that point, It was like, damn. And then eventually, after trying to do that, they finally, this was back when SMKW would have their live and they would talk back and forth to people. They announced in one of them, I typed up in there, like, I can't get this thing to patina or whatever. They announced that there's a mix-up, and it's 440A. It's not T10, which what they were using. So your parameters might be different. If you look at just the specs of things and say, oh, technically this is the best thing and this is the best stuff. What are you doing? What are you using your knife for? If you're just using your knife to mess around and cut, a lot of times it's not how thick this edge is and everything in a pocket knife, it's how thin it can get. And thin means that it's not necessarily, you're not going to be able to dig up taters and run into something steel down there and not have issues. If you want to do that, you're going to have to get something thicker. But then again, it's a compromise. You lose the ability to use your knife the you lose something. You know, there's not anything like perfect. It's just like if you look at those steel charts and you start looking at them and these little charts, this is corrosion resistance, this is toughness, edge retention, and all this other stuff, and you factor them up, and different steels have different types and everything, and you look at some that are really great. Well, the problem is, I think he was comparing a cold steel to a rough rider, and which one is better? Well, cold steels cost more than a rough rider knife. I think it was a folding hunter. Which one would make better? Folding hunter. And I had a long-winded discussion with the person, response, comment, basically. And I said, if you're hunting and you had to skin a deer, folding hunter, and you had to skin a deer, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two that I had there. It was like a Ranch Boss 2 and then a regular Rough Rider folding hunter, one of the bigger ones that just folds out. I think it was just the one-bladed one. May have been locking, but, the old school locking. But, it's mainly talking about steels and stuff like that. And I said, it depends. A lot of it depends on you. That's why there's so much stuff. That's why there's so many different blade shapes. There's so many different price ranges and everything. But all they're going to do is still basically cut. A lot of these start getting to be more like jewelry. I don't know if it's still popular, but I remember back in the day, if you had a suit, you always had to have cufflinks. These little things that it's men's jewelry, basically, is what it is. But back then, in the 60s and stuff like that, 50s, 60s, men didn't wear jewelry. Not too many. Because it was all about the image. You need to look macho even if you weren't. But anyways, getting back to the price range and everything and quality, which is better? Like these sabers here, yeah, they're made in Japan, and I can look it up and everything, but the steel, if you compare them to modern steels and everything, may not be that great, but man, these things can cut. These old knives, little pocket knives and stuff, will cut. And again, they're pocket knives. You have to keep in mind what they are. Yeah, you can oversize them and beef them out and everything, but they get pretty heavy and you got to have pretty big pockets. But I mean, if you got a need for it and a use, go for it. I don't mind giving advice to people and stuff, but when it comes down to like which is better, there's some questions you're going to have to answer yourself, and that's one of them, because I don't want to sit there and recommend one knife over the other for someone, and they get it, and then they don't like it, and then they've got me to blame. Well, you can go ahead and blame me. I don't care, because again, you're asking for an opinion. You're not asking for facts, and a lot of it depends on your hand shape and everything. Sometimes you don't need to modify a knife at all. Just find a way of attaching it, to your body. Put it in a pocket, get a loop or, cord or something like that. Again, these don't have to be necessarily save queens. When I'm taking a traditional knife out, a lot of times I'll put this in a slip, a leather slip. That again is another thing, like a little holster. It's just something where you can personalize it. All I've done, I think, is sharpen this one a little bit, but it's mainly just like, yeah, fancy knife. And only people like us probably would notice it. Many other people would just look at that. If they didn't, you say, what's that? That's a GEC. What they're probably talking about when they say what's that is what type of knife that is. Like, oh, this is called I keep trying to, my mind keeps popping up with canoe because I had one up there. Toothpick. Dang. I'm getting old, man. I'm sorry. That one should have popped up in my head instantly. Like, what's this pattern shape? And I was thinking about the case canoe. I've got a case It's not the canoe, you know. But again, it's functionality, you know, like locking. Depending on that, like, all right, you're not gonna heavy use abuse and everything, but you do like the idea of, you know, a locking blade and a little bit, you know, protecting your hands here. This is a copper lock. Um, you can get them in mini and full size and everything else, but I think this is a mini. Nice blade shape and everything. You have the there's a thunder. It's not my stomach. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. But anyway, yeah. So there you go. That's just a little quickie one there, semi-quickie. I'm sorry, I'll get back into knives and stuff. Lately, I've been carrying on my belt the full size. This one, what did I modify it with? Well, I still have the original sheath and everything else, but I modified it with my blood on the handle. It's still there. When it cut me, and I took this off. I took that little, I defanged it a little bit, but I like the grip on this. I like carrying the mini too, also because for my body size and everything, it doesn't stick out as much. This, you know, you gotta have a loose shirt, and even then, if you position it, you've got to lean your t-shirt properly. It prints basically. It shows, makes you look like you're happy to see someone. But I like the convenience of bam, you know, there it is. There's a knife. If I need to open a package, if I need to do anything, and what does it matter what steel is? The mini one is in 3V and this one's in D2. As far as cutting packages, I like the length of this one and the feel. But they both cut perfectly fine. And they cut cardboard and packages with no problem. Again, I have a lot of knives, and I like knives. Some of them are just for looks. Some of them are just for looks. Some of them are practical. They're not even knives. You know, like I turn them into little pry tools and stuff. Because this saves me from getting so many stabs. Because a lot of times I'm tempted to pry with a knife. I saw my buddy. He had a, what was it? He had a knife. We were taking the antenna. Oh yeah, we were taking the CB antenna off of the back of the Jeep, and I'd already gotten all the 3 screws on the front, and I forgot there's a. It looks like a rivet on the outside, but it goes through the wheel well. And before he found out about that nut, he got out this knife, the one I gave him, the Gonzo, and he sticks it between the Jeep and the thing and starts to pry, and he goes, no, there's something. And I go, man, don't be doing that. You're going to, even that, it survived. I mean, it didn't hurt or anything, but that's the way you snap a blade. You know, a lot of people that don't know about knives, don't know about leverage, will do something stupid with it. Toad sticker. Yeah, this is good for sticking toads, but man, if you were to sit there and start bending it, you know, it's gonna snap. It's gonna take a bend, or it's gonna snap. Screw it up. It won't fold anymore. For what? Because you didn't use the proper tool for the job, you know. I'm guilty of it too. I've snapped the tips off of knives using them as screwdrivers. I thought, oh man, I don't want to get up and go when I work in a factory. I don't want to get up and go to the tool. I got this pocket knife right here. Oh man, I got this broken pocket knife right now. Serves you right. Would you shut up? Come on, man. I'm doing a video for you. So anyways, there you go. I've rambled on long enough. You can pay a lot of money. You can pay a little bit of money. It doesn't matter, really. What it comes down to is how well does it cut for what you're using it for cutting. And it doesn't even have to cut. Maybe you just sit there and you just look at it. You just like holding it. Look at the finish on this, you know, between these 3 knives. I bet you could put these knives right here, hand these knives to a novice, and ask them to rate the value or something. And if they didn't know anything about knives, they might know about the name, the case, but a lot of people don't know about GEC. That sounds like a, you know, like a GMC. It sounds like a car or something. And marbles, people know marbles. So, you know, in this right here, as far as like looks and everything, marbles might win out over a GEC or a case if somebody, you know. Anyways, there you go. It all depends. It all depends on you personally. What are your needs and what you like and everything. I'm not here to sell knives to you. But anyway, there you go. I hope that satisfies old Dick over there. But yeah, I know I should. When I get into things, I really get into them, and I should just continue to make the videos on the radios, but maybe not upload them, barrage them. But anyways, since you made it this far, I just would like to say thank you for making it this far. I gotta keep Peppy away from the radio now because he's running the battery down over here listening to his radio stations. They're always doing something. Broke the antenna. What'd they use that for? Hand-to-hand combat or something? Who knows? Que buena! Well, you keep it low. Keep it on the down low over there. Oh, I knocked over the dinosaur protecting the post. There you go. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.